Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Genshin Impact set of reactions. Today we have Benediction of Dreams and Dragon and Determination. These two were requested by Lady Biohazard in the comments of the last video, and apparently are from an area I've never even heard of before. Simulanka, I believe, is how it's pronounced, and it's just an area that was apparently limited time and nobody's requested anything from before. I did say in the last video near the end that I was starting to feel a little bit of fatigue from just hearing nothing but Nod Cry week after week. Eventually you kind of run out of things to say, so I wanted something a little bit more fresh, and this definitely fits that description, so I'm going to listen to these and see what happens here, and without further ado, let's go! Ooh. It's almost kind of a whiplash, because I'm so used to hearing Nod Cry stuff. And this is a much more, like, dreamlike sort of feel to this sound. I mean, Nod Cry is beautiful too, but they all have such distinct identities, every region. Ooh, that bass line. That is so heavy. This really feels like a breath of fresh air, and I don't mean that because it's not Nod Cry. The song itself just feels that way. It's got such an essence of new beginnings. Tonally, it actually fits the image on screen really well. I doubt that's intentional, but it fits that vibe real nice. Oh, that is so nice. Again, completely different identity. It's just, it's really got that essence of just taking it all in, you know? I like that a lot. This song is like a warm hug, and I think that is entirely intentional. The way that the song loops around the piano, and it just feels so present, yet at the same time so dreamlike, like it was never there to begin with. This is really cool. I really like this energy it has because it does feel like a warm hug, but it also feels like you're saying goodbye at the same time. It's the goodbye hug, you know, like that last time you're giving somebody an embrace before you know you may never see them again. It's a little different from that first time you see somebody for the first time in a while, where it's like you're a little bit more excited. There's more of an energy behind it because both parties are hopefully excited for that to happen and everyone's involved emotionally like that. But this is different. This is like the you never know if you're going to see it again sort of feeling, and I think that works really well with the context of it being a limited area that is no longer available, and I don't know if they're ever going to bring it back either, so I don't know if I'm ever going to get the chance to experience this place. I usually don't touch on the events spaces and like the limited time stuff that happens in the game anyway. I'm more focused on general exploration, and the overall Archon stories are kind of my main bread and butter for the game, but I am interested in trying these other areas and such. I just want to get further in the overall story and caught up a little bit better before I start taking branching paths and confusing myself even more. So this is cool to hear this because it's so welcoming. You know, it feels like I missed out on something hearing this song, and I'm interested to hear what the second song sounds like, but just really quick, I want to make sure that I can play this for you just because this is a really cool. That's just so beautiful. That progression in general. And it bounces back up by going. And it just, you see how that like, it just has that loop to it. And it just did like right there, starts and ends. same note, it just comes around that full octave. These like looping ones, these looping melodies tend to do that a lot. They'll go for an octave for the full loop and at the very end of that final phrase, just to make sure there's enough of a bookend to feel solidified by the end. The end of this song has more of a chord finish, which is also a really good option. It doesn't just end on the solo note, but I could totally understand if it ended just right on that and did nothing else with it and it just kind of decayed out naturally. But I think that chord was also a really interesting choice because it made the entire feeling of the song shift at the last second, where there's now more presence in it. Like it feels like there's still something to be said here. Like it's not done. It doesn't leave any tension. It finishes it off with the chord. But what that specific chord does is allow you to go, oh, there's more information here. It doesn't just end on that single note because that would be a lot more finite. But this one, having it end on that chord, makes you go, maybe there's more here. Maybe we can revisit this. So I'm really hoping they end up bringing it back because it would be a bummer if they didn't, if this is a song in there. I also don't know if this is like the main theme of that area. It probably isn't or anything, but I also would not be shocked if it is because it feels so welcoming, but at the same time so bittersweet to hear because you know your time is finite here. Definitely. This song is screaming that, and I just want to be able to experience this. So I really personally hope they bring it back so I can do that myself because that is a beautiful song. I hope they bring more music with the next iteration of it if they do bring it back, but also bring back songs like this. Of course, you got to bring back the originals, all the fan favorites if they are out there, you know, but that's also assuming that it was even a popular event to begin with. I don't even know how well this was received. It could have been trash for all I know. I'm assuming it wasn't, based that somebody requested the songs from it, but maybe it just had a really good soundtrack, but disappointing, you know, stories or quests or whatever. So I don't know, but now I have to hear what Dragon and Determination sounds like, so I'm going to listen to that one next. All right, immediately different. You know, in hindsight, I think they said this was a battle theme of the area, so remembering that, now it makes more sense. Very different from the last one, though, just in tone overall. I kind of like that dulcimer drone in the background. That like twanginess that's just kind of bang, bang, just... It's a nice texture to have in there. Especially when everything else has this like... Definitely has that like chest popped out sort of presence to it. Walking like they own the street. It's a little cartoon villainy. I'm not entirely sure why. Well, I mean, the reason why is the choice of chords and instruments in some cases. But like this section, it sounds completely different from the first chunk. Ooh. I guess that would loop there, wouldn't it? That would fit. Yeah, that would go right back with that crash symbol. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think for a quick second there at the very beginning of this one, it almost reminded me of the Imperial March from Star Wars. It's definitely not, but I could totally see if other people heard that as well, like jumping straight in and hearing that like that's just, you know, the Imperial March, as everyone is aware. That like pattern is what everyone associates with it. So it's just kind of funny hearing that, but then having it followed up almost immediately by like a little bit of clowniness. Like it's a little lighthearted for a battle theme. I'm not entirely sure who you're fighting in this area, if it would be just normal, you know, whatever NPCs, normal enemies that you would find like on the mainland of the game, or if it's like a specific type that's different. This doesn't feel like the usual sort of thing like you'd be fighting the Fatui under, you know, like it's a completely different energy, and it almost does sound cartoonish. I think that's what's kind of interesting the most to me about it is that it sounds kind of like you're fighting a cartoon almost all the way through. There's a jovialness to it that's a little bit too unserious to be like a serious enemy or a serious threat. There's just an energy to this song. The chords are doing that. They're still very like, they got that pompous, but it's very much like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. It's very like cartoony in that fashion where you can still tell that they're a threat, but the way that they're so proud of themselves and carrying themselves like that makes it almost feel comical to a degree. And I don't know how accurate that is, of course, but it totally feels that way. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just the bias of the specific instruments that were being used here, because some of them were a little bit goofy, like the castanets. Those fit in there, but also that's like so cartoony. Again, it's one of those things that in context of it being a dance or something that's a little bit more waltzy or party-like, then yeah, they totally fit. But when it's played in something that's supposed to be taken more seriously like this, it almost sounds like they're trying too hard, you know? Like it's just an extra detail that really doesn't need to be there if the character themselves was supposed to present as more serious. This is really unserious to me. I don't think it's like entirely like 100% goofiness, like it's not a clown theme or anything, but at the same time, it definitely doesn't give me the feeling of confidence that the song itself is trying to convince me that it is. You know, that's the energy here. This feels like an enemy theme to an enemy that really isn't a threat at the end of the day, and it almost feels like you're babysitting to a degree, and the kid themselves is trying to play like knights and dragons, like, ooh, maybe that's where the dragons and determination thing comes from. Maybe that is a thing. Maybe there is like somebody who's a little bit full of themselves in this scenario. That would totally track. Maybe. I don't know. But like, this one was fun, but also for a battle theme, I don't know how serious this is supposed to be taken, because it does have a lot of elements that feel so unserious. But I have yapped enough today, so thank you all so very much for watching. If you have another song from Genshin that you want me to get to, I think I could handle Not Cry again if you guys want me to get back to that. I just wanted a little bit of a break in between to give myself some variety, but if the next songs are going to be from Not Cry, that would totally be fine. But if you don't want to do any of that, and maybe you just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!